قل هذه سبيلي أدعو إلى الله على بصيرة أنا ومن اتبعني وسبحان الله وما أنا من المشركين.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستهديه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له. وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وأصحابه وسلم تسليما كثيرا. أما بعد. So the next point I want to mention, I mentioned last class that many had drastic change in their wala and bara in the past decade, and they molted in their belief like snakes molt their skin. We spoke on that. This happened in both the Muslim world and in the West in the past decade or so. What I needed to finish off mentioning that I said I will talk about is that some of them attribute their drastic change in wala and bara and justify it by using a Shafi'i's change in his madhab. Some of them, you hear them say, we changed like a Shafi'i changed. Shafi'i changed, we changed. What happened is, a Shafi'i basically has two madhabs. While initially, in his early part of his life, he was in Iraq. He had his rulings, his teachings, his writings, and his students there. Then he traveled to Masr later on in his life. Then he had his readings, rulings, teachings, and writings, and students there. Many of those who changed in their Aqeedah say they changed like the Shafi'i changed. Well, let me respond quickly to that so we won't be fooled by that. Oh yeah, Shafi'i changed, so yeah, later on you want to change your deen and molt in your deen, you can change. Ibn al-Qayyim in A'lam al-Muwaqqi'in said a faqih, to give a ruling, in addition to the textual knowledge of the Quran, Sunnah, Ijma', he has to know the tradition, the time, and the custom, the settings that surround the matter he's going to be talking about. A faqih must know that. But that's in fiqh. Aqeedah doesn't change. And even in fiqh, the entire madhab doesn't change like a Shafi'i changed, based on traditions or customs or timings or places. It may be a few issues that those timings and settings and the people and the status, a few issues that may affect them, may. You have to know it. The change of Shafi'i that happened with his madhab was due to exposure to more proof. Because when he left Iraq, he went and accumulated more proof. If you analyze, number one, if you analyze the madhab of Shafi'i, he didn't change after he got to Egypt. His reform and change began before he left Iraq. Right before he left Iraq, he began to change. The change in Iraq before he left to Egypt was because more proof was reaching him. His change was not to make the inhabitants of a country happy or make it easier or to please authorities or anything of that nature. It was because of more exposure to proof. And it started where? It started in Iraq. Second point, had Shafi'i intended on making two madhabs, one for his country, each country that he was at, one in Masr, one in Egypt, based on traditions or to please Western authorities there or whatever it may be, what other factor they may claim, He would have said, I wrote this in Egypt, and that's for Egypt. And what I had wrote in Iraq, that's for Iraq. Had he said that, we would understand that every country has its own circumstances and different set of rulings from the Quran and Sunnah. That's not a Shafi'i. That's not the way Shafi'i works. A Shafi'i actually is quoted as saying the opposite to that, because that's not how a Shafi'i works. A Shafi'i is quoted as Zarkashi in Al-Bahr al-Muhit, quotes as Shafi'i saying, it's prohibited for anyone to narrate any of my old madhab when I was in Iraq. He didn't base his new change on circumstances, climate, lifestyles, and wishes of the people, or to make it easier to please authorities, but rather on more proof that he was exposed to. He clearly abrogated his old madhab. The third point on this matter, had it been that he changed because different fatwas suit different people in different countries, his students who know him best in Iraq would have kept promoting his work in Iraq, and they did not do that. Number 4, I'll slow down a little bit inshallah. The real, genuine followers of a Shafi'i, and they know him best, never mentioned that he changed because of a different country or different people or circumstances or any of that. In fact, if you analyze and read carefully, you would realize that when and if his students, because some of his students became mujtahideen, if any of them adopted opinions from his old madhab that he changed from, because they deemed it strong, they adopted that opinion because as mujtahideen they deemed that opinion strong, they would take that opinion but not attribute it to their shaykh, because he retracted his entire madhab. If they preferred one of his old opinions and they chose it because they're mujtahideen, they would use it without attributing that to him. Why? Because he abrogated it. They're doing it on their own. They don't want to attribute something to him that he didn't want. Now, a fifth point, if a Shafi'i changed his fiqh based on change of countries and nature of people or circumstances or whatever reason people claim, if it was not based on proof, then he would have said, only people of Egypt follow this madhab, and only the people of Egypt. And if you're Iraq, follow the madhab in Iraq, and no one else. He would not have allowed followers from any portion outside of that country where he was in to follow the madhab he was forming and teaching and outlining. That never happened. In fact, in Nawawi rahimahullah, you know that he's a Shaykh, Shafi'i, Imam in the Shafi'i madhab. He said in his book Al-Majmu', he said, anytime you see two opinions for a Shafi'i, the correct opinion is the new one, meaning the one where he was after he traveled. The seventh point I wanted to mention is that on this matter is that those who use the Shafi'i change, when they say it to justify their change of being astray and to making matters easy or popular. They'll choose the popular matter at that time to please others, because that scores points. They do that even if it's against the Quran and the Sunnah. So they want to make matters easy to please people. Not only do they do it in fiqh, they took it a step up to doing it in Aqeedah. And it's bad in both, to please people, make it easier. Yes, Siru. But if you analyze the works of a Shafi'i in Egypt and Iraq, his overall views in the new madhab are considered harsher, tougher. So he changed to a harsher view, and he did not shed out of his principles in Aqeedah. How so? Look at his Usoor, his principles that he founded his madhab on, his new madhab, the changes that took effect. In his new madhab, he based a lot on precaution. When you base a lot on precaution, that makes matters tougher. B, he did not use the principle of al-masalih al-mursala, the consideration of public interest, which makes matters slightly easier. He didn't use that in his new madhab. C, urf. He used more of text that reached him over urf, which is custom. You understand more what I mean when he changed those principles? how he changed to a harsher view. Not a harsher, but the correct view. But it was harsher than the old view. In Iraq, he used to, for example, dislike using silver and gold plates. When he went to Masr, he said it's haram. So in Iraq was makruh, in Masr it's haram. He changed to a harsher view. In Iraq, he adopted that if one forgets Al-Fatiha in Salah, he doesn't have to make it up. In Egypt, he said, one must make it up. Meaning if you remember afterwards, you have to make it up. So he changed to a harsher view. In Iraq, he used to say that washing from a dog's saliva is not obligatory. It's not wajib. When he went to Masr, he changed to the opinion that was obligatory. So he went to a harsher view. So don't use the Shafi as justification. Another example, in Iraq, he used to say, if one doesn't follow the order in wudu, like if he does his feet before his face, that's acceptable in the madhab. It's not preferred, but it's acceptable. When he went to Egypt, he said, if you don't do the wudu in order, then that invalidates the wudu and you must repeat it. In Iraq, he used to say that one sleeping does not negate wudu. When he got to Egypt, he changed that view and he said, sleeping negates one's wudu. In Iraq, he ruled that if a woman has a husband, you know how they used to go back on a journey back then, sometimes they wouldn't return. He said, after 4 years expire, she can consider him dead and do the iddah automatically. His new madhab in Egypt, he ruled that she cannot make her iddah after 4 years, nor marry. She has to keep waiting. Absolutely wait until he returns. Could be 10 years or more. Of course, there's other ways around it, but before he said automatically 4 years. Now he said no, not even 4. 10 years, it doesn't matter. There's, like I say, there's other detailed ways around the matter where she can go to a khalifa or a judge. This particular fiqh matter has two opinions by Sahaba. Ibn Abbas had the same view that Shafi'i had in his old madhab, which is the easier of the two. Ibn Abbas had his opinion in Iraq, 4 years. There's another opinion on this matter by Ali ibn Abi Talib radiallahu anh, and that he must wait no matter how long, which is the harsher of the two. Ali's opinion radiallahu anh is harsher than the first one by Ibn Abbas. There's a choice between two Sahaba's opinions. In the new madhab, he left the easier opinion. He could have chosen either one because this is the Sahaba's view. He could have chosen either one. He chose the opinion of you got to keep waiting and waiting and waiting. It could be 10 years, 15 years. The point of all this is don't disrespect the Shafi'i and change and then claim that your change is like a Shafi'i. The Shafi'i's change was because he left Iraq and he traveled through Mecca and Al-Hijaz. And when he traveled, he went through towns and he was exposed to more proof. They had little to work with back then. His change was in fiqh, not in aqeedah and wala and bara. And when you ask these people changing wala and bara, they claim loosely, oh, we're like a Shafi'i. Back then, they didn't have an iPhone with 6,000 volumes on it and you could click search on a word and get all the references on there. They had little to work with. They had to travel continents to get a hadith. Imam Ahmad, who's considered a student of al-Shafi'i, said, as in Manaqib al-Shafi'i, al-Bayhaqi, he said Shafi'i began to outline his new madhab at the end of his time in Iraq. But like I said in the earlier, but he wasn't able to affirm it until he got to Egypt. So stick to the teachings of Egypt, his teaching in Egypt. And you know, Imam Ahmad is a student of al-Shafi'i. Al-Shafi'i changed because of, like I say, exposure to more proof. And he changed to a harsher view, not for nifaq and pleasing the enemies of Islam, and not even in aqeedah, it was in the fiqh matters.